Okay, to repeat, we're going through this values distillation and priority process that we have done both for our organization, but also for a previous session like this. And we are going to use, we had our initial intention was that we would create about a 8-minute video from this process and demonstrate it in this upcoming workshop presentation that the three of us are doing at the Saging International Virtual Summit at the end of October. By the way, I encourage all of you to go to the Saging website and look at the program and consider attending the summit. So now we're not sure, because we're playing with the idea, we'd like to try to make it work, of having live processes going on in all of the breakout groups. And if that happens, then the recordings we make of this will be used in snippets and other ways. I am assuming right now that there are no objections to recording this meeting. If we end up using anything publicly, we will get back to you and ask your permission. Okay with everybody? Thank you. That's great. Okay, so now Angie, can you share your screen and call up the... Yeah.
Can you all see that?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, here is the agenda, and you can read it for yourself, but you'll notice that I'm just going to spend a little more time on the why values are important. Most of this time is going to be spent in both the workshop and a discussion, an open conversation following it. And then there's a little bit more at the end. Okay. And now I think you can pull up the values. All right. This is why we've been so focused on values. And it doesn't even matter if you're conscious or not, they are the motivators of action. And the shared values, not only the glue of communities and countries, but the foundational glue of democracies, democratic values are. And we all know, that's why we're here, that our political system is paralyzed and fragile. And it's because of a polarized and uninformed civic culture, no understanding of democratic values, and even our system of government, and a disagreement about what constitutes even truth and facts, and an acceptance, even a promulgation of violence, division, hate, as a way to solve differences, resolve differences. So we feel that to work effectively, we have to identify, clarify, and prioritize our values to answer these three questions. Why do we care? What work shall we focus on of all the things we care about? And how shall we work most closely together? And we think that using only around 5 values at a time allows us to concentrate our strategies, and also makes it easier to see if we have shared values with people we're working with. And just to repeat a little bit, or to emphasize the reading that we heard from Francis Weller, we in Elders Action Network and Saging embrace the traditional view of elders. And I say that, the guardians of wisdom, I say that with humility because we all know that the elders are not always wise, and the and the youngers can be wise, are often wise. But we do aspire to be wise elders. So now, if you have any questions or thoughts around this, jot them down, because Angie is now going to lead us through the process. And all the process questions can be addressed to her, but I don't think you'll have many. She's very clear. Okay, Angie, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Meg. So we started and we sent this out, a values, we're calling a starter list. It's just a thought jogger. It's in alphabetical order to be neutral. And I'm going to place it in the chat as well, so that when we lose this slide, you'll have them in front of you. So let me close that. So with these in mind, with this values starter list, we want you to select 3 to 5 of these that today, right now, before we go into our circle process, are the most important to you. And I'm going to turn this over now to Therese, who's going to lead us in an exercise to document those values through a word cloud. And I will stop my share so that Therese can share. Can you unmute, Therese?
Thank you, Angie. In a moment, you're going to see on your screen, I hope, my screen, which asks you to submit up to 3, 1 or 2 word descriptions of your high priority values. And we do ask that you take a look in the chat. Maybe you have already printed out the list that we sent you ahead of time. And also, if you look in the chat, you'll see a URL, which is going to allow you, if you click on it, to answer this question. Alternatively, you can use a smartphone and take a picture of that cute little square on the left, and it will lead you to the same website. And on that website, so you're going to leave our share screen, you should be able to see that. And it will say the same question. Please submit up to 3, 1 or 2 word descriptions of your high priority values. And I'd appreciate it if Angie and Meg, who know that this works, will start answering those. You can add one, and then it will say below that, you might like it to add another. And we're all going to see both your answers as you submit them and a word cloud appear. You're starting to see it.
But I don't have my anything in the chat with the URL.
You do not? You don't?
I don't either.
Well, I'm so sorry to hear that. I have maybe I didn't send it.
I have it.
Maybe you put it in before the rest of us.
Put it in, just put it in now. Yeah.
I did
put
just
it in before we join the meeting, then we won't see it.
I put it in just before we joined just now, not before we joined the meeting.
Oh.
Can you see it? I'm going to put it in again. Wait a minute.
Slido.com.
It is, but wait a minute. I'm so sorry. Oh, who can see your messages? Everyone can see my messages. This was supposed to be Meg.
Yeah, the list is in my chat.
Yeah.
Showed up.
That's it. And then the next one is slido.com with that number. Can you see that?
Do we just
yes, but there is.
Yeah, it says enter the code.
Try it. I had a URL that I sent to everyone, I thought, but
Huh, that's just,
I seem so sorry. I'm going to stop share for a second and enter it in the chat again, because
it may, yeah,
if it's in the chat, all you're supposed to need to do is click on it. Maybe I didn't.
Okay, I got it on
Did
there.
you see it?
now we got it. Thank you.
I didn't enter. I apologize. That was my fault.
What? Shoot.
Okay,
Now you can see, maybe now we're starting to see integrity, authenticity, truth, and trust as more people, and you can see if you look at the upper right, I can see, I don't know if you can, that one person, now we have 2 people who have entered. And as you start seeing this, check and try to be careful of your spelling, because if you could use 1 to 2 words, that would be great.
yeah, that will help.
That will help. And what you'll see as more of us choose the same 2 words, those words are going to start to be bigger in the
I'm
word
having
cloud.
trouble getting in, but I think it's getting me there.
Okay.
I see the words, but I don't see how I register for any of them.
You write, you,
Enter the number.
First, you have to go to the link in the chat, and then you'll see the question and it will give you a blank as well as the word cloud. Do you see that?
How many are we supposed to enter?
Yes, I
1
see.
or 2 word descriptions of your high priority values.
Oh,
And
not,
one thing that's good is look at the ones that are already there and use the same spelling, add something that's already there. And
I
that's
gotta go
what's,
back and forth because I can't see both the
You can't.
website and the Zoom at the same time.
on the website, do you see the word cloud? Oh, look at truth is getting big.
I see the one I'm putting in.
Okay,
And I'm putting in 3 of them. I don't know.
great. You put in 1 and then you say enter, then you choose add another.
Yeah,
Yeah, is that starting to
Yeah.
make sense?
yeah. All right, that's it.
So 9 of us have now added answers, and you can see, is everybody,
not quite.
Yeah. and you can see part of what's happening. We're seeing different colors, and we're seeing the sizes of some of the values, some of the values that we care about a lot.
What does the size and color mean?
The bigger the size means more people like it and care about it. And likewise, the aqua color means more people. So part of what's happening is with the deep blue, big print is telling us more of us care about it.
Yeah, we're
And-
using different words.
Yeah, if we use different words, this is a problem. I think what we're learning is that we need to say 1 or 2 words.
Right.
Use our list.
Yep,
Or just have a little, like a multiple choice. You just click on it, so you don't have to enter anything. You just
We
click
could
on
do
it.
that too, but a multiple choice, you won't get a word cloud, but you will get a poll. We could do that. Those are some of the things we want to learn from our group. So we have 10 people who've answered this now. Do we have anybody else who needs to finish up?
You know, I wrote my answers in the chat to everyone, and I have a feeling that they're not registering the way you're talking about it. I don't
So
know
they
how.
don't go in the chat. They go on this website.
Yeah, you have to click on if you don't mind, give it a try. Do you see the website link in the chat?
I have the whole thing up with the list of the words, and I can see reverence for life in great big blue letters.
Right. And below that, there should be a website link that you can click on.
I don't see anything. I see all these words, but I don't see anything beyond the bottom that says reverence for all life, right relationships with all life. I don't see anything
I don't
below
see
that.
anything else.
It's
Okay.
above that. I think it's above that.
No,
It's
it's
above that.
actually below that.
No, okay.
Angie, could you take a quick look at the chat? Could you see it?
I can see the chat. Do you, so Libby, do you want me to add yours?
What?
Do you want me to add yours into the word cloud?
Yeah, that'd be great because I'm not able to do it.
All right, let me just bear with me for a minute. So the first one, how about if you were, if you can read them to me so I
Yeah,
can.
it was reverence for all life and right
Hang on,
relationship.
whoa, one at a time, Hang on. Reverence for all life.
Okay. You
Okay,
just
what's
want
the
a few
second one?
words. So deep listening and dialogue.
Do you want to add the dialogue? It won't populate with the others. So if I just keep.
Okay, just do deep listening.
Okay, and what's your third one?
Justice, fairness, equity.
Okay, they're in. Is anybody else having difficulty getting them in, and you give them to me, I can put them in for you?
No,
What
but I would just like for everyone to understand that when you put it into slido.com, if you put 3 words in, those 3 words will appear together rather than as individual words.
That's correct.
So I only put in truth, for example.
Right.
I didn't put in the other words that
Right.
included truth. And so as you can see, if you look at that word cloud, you're seeing a lot of words repeated, but they're grouped together, and that's why they're repeated.
That's right. So that's another thing we can probably deal with by simply making our values list 1 words instead of multiple words.
Well, or just make it a poll with a multiple choice poll, and you
Yeah.
pick 3 out of the 12 or whatever it is.
But we really like well, I guess we can see that with a poll. Anyway, we'll discuss this at the end.
I will also tell you
Has
that
everyone entered into the poll?
yes, but I'd like to tell you I tried to use the little logo thing and it didn't work.
Okay, thank you. Great. Okay, so Angie, so we should look at this. This is a word cloud that gives some sense of what our values are at this point. We're going to move through our process with Angie, and we'll come back and do another one and see if it changes. Angie, shall I stop sharing and turn it over to you? Is there anything
Yes.
else we should say first?
Nope, we're good.
Okay, thank you.
Forgot which ones I entered.
Okay, I'm going to share screen again. Bear with me. All right, I captured the word cloud. I put it on here so you can see it. So this was our first, top 3 values that we as a group care most about. And you can see the ones that are popping out: reverence for all life, deep listening, truth seem to be the top 3, and then a few others: community, urgent action, peacefulness, and justice. Okay. So now we're going to shift gears, and I'm going to ask you to think about a particular purpose. So that was what we just went through, was an exercise in what are our values today as we just sit here, as individuals and then collectively as a group. Now we're going to be doing selecting values for a purpose. So the purpose is that Saging International is collaborating with a millennial organization like Sunrise to develop actions that we can take to combat climate change. So that's our purpose. A lot of you know a lot about Sunrise, some may not. And so we're just going to share a little bit of information about them. It's a movement of mostly young people, very young people, children, as well as adolescents and millennials, that is mostly focused on climate change, although not entirely. They also have other objectives. They are looking at public housing, jobs, other things as well. But climate change is their biggie. And I'm going to ask you to bear with me while we play a 2-minute video that will give you a feeling for what Sunrise looks like in action. Okay, we can add here.
We are trying to ask you to vote yes on the Green New Deal.
Okay, I'll tell you what. We have our own Green New Deal.
Some scientists have said that we have 12 years to turn this around.
Well, it's not going to get turned around in 10 years. What we can do,
Senator, if this doesn't get turned around in 10 years, you're looking at the faces of the people who are going to be living with these consequences.
The government is supposed to be for the people and by the people and all
you know
for the
what's
people.
interesting about this group is I've been doing this for 30 years. I know what I'm doing. You come in here and you say it has to be my way or the highway. I don't respond to that. I've gotten elected. I just ran. I was elected by almost 1 million vote plurality. And I know what I'm doing. So, you know, maybe people should listen a little bit.
I hear what you're saying, but we're the people who voted you. You're supposed to listen to us. That's your
How old are you?
job.
How old
I'm
are you?
16. I
Well,
can't
you didn't vote for me.
Well, I'm 24.
It doesn't matter. We're the ones who's going to be
Words
impacted.
mean something.
It doesn't matter. We're going to be the ones who are impacted.
I understand that. I have 7 grandchildren. I understand it very well.
Senator, the cost of
And-
not taking this action is far higher than the cost of what the Green New Deal will be. And there
Here's
is
what-
enormous popularity for this bill around
Okay.
the whole country.
Here's
And we're
what
asking you to
we
be
are
brave and
proposing.
do this for us and for your grandchildren.
Get enough for everyone. I'm trying to do the best I can, which was to write a responsible resolution.
Any plan that
that
doesn't
has-
take bold, transformative action is not going to be what we need.
Well, you know better than I do.
Why don't
So
you-
I think one day you should run for the Senate.
Great.
And then you do it your way.
But by that
In the
time,
meantime,
there's
I
going to be a
just,
big problem.
I
We
just
have a
won a
letter
big
for you.
election.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe
Okay.
by clicking
Bear
on
with
that
me
button
here
down
while I turn this
here,
off.
and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.
Okay. I'm going to stop the share for a second so I can get rid of that.
My values got the best of me. I wanted to smack her.
Well, the kid, neither one was listening. She wasn't listening to the kids, and the
Keep
kids
that
weren't
in. All right,
listening to her.
hold on. We're going to enter into circle process. You're going to have to control yourselves, guys. Okay. All right. Just
Jot
relax.
down these reactions,
you
so
know,
you'll have a
look-
chance later.
Just now, you've taken that all in, okay? And now that you've had a chance to see sunrise in action, we're going to enter into a circle process, and I'm going to go through what that is in the slide. Hold on. Okay. So, can you all see this, or is my Zoom obliterating it for you?
No, it's good.
Yes,
It's good.
Okay. So circles come to us from Indigenous communities who gather together to make important decisions for their community in a way that's not hierarchical. Every participant is equal, has equal time, equal voice, and input into major decisions for the community. So we've designed a modified circle process. This is not a pure circle process, but it's modified to be able to use it virtually and to do it in an hour and a half. So we're going to ask you to quiet yourself in your mind and your heart and take a few deep breaths. In through the nose, hold. In a second. Focus only on your breathing. Keep yourself completely present. Let go of everything else in your life that's bothering you, that you have to do today. And I'd like to invite you to take your hands and form a bowl in front of you. And in that bowl, you're going to place these circle values of respect, authenticity, acceptance, and inclusion. And you're going to hold them literally and figuratively in this bowl. And we're going to use ground rules that are going to govern the way we operate within Circle. Put them in the bowl too. And the ground rules are one person at a time in circle order. I'll put the order in the chat. No interrupting. Deep listening. And what that means is you're going to be completely present to the person speaking. You're not going to be thinking about what you're going to say when it's your turn. You're just going to be really listening to what the other person is saying and take it into your heart. Speak your own truth. There is no judging or fixing other people and their opinions. Share the time equitably. We only have about 30 minutes for this exercise, and we've got about 11 people, so you can do the arithmetic. It's okay to pass. We'll come back to you. I'm an introvert, and I often, if I'm one of the first people in circle order, I will pass because I need more processing time. It's perfectly okay, and I will make sure that we come back to you. So now I'm going to stop the share. Before I do that, remind you that I want you to think about your values now, given the purpose, and also think about how your values may have changed. What was important to you 5 minutes ago may be less important to you, and some other values may be more important to you when you think about collaborating with Sunrise. So consider that as we go forward. Okay, and it's not going to let me stop the share. There we are. Alrighty, and I'm going to put our circle order. I've tried to do it alphabetically, but I wanted to put the people who have not participated before an opportunity to speak first, and so I've put them in first. Okay, and here's the circle order. A couple of people aren't here, so we will just skip over them. Okay. So if you're not speaking, please mute yourself. And the first person is going to be David. Unmute, please, David.
I'll pass.
Okay. Deborah's not here. Mike Abkin.
So the point is, how have my values changed for this purpose? Well, I would say I put 3 different ones than I had before, which I saw these values not exhibited in that little video by either side. One would be respect for the opinions of others, appreciation of differences. Neither side did that. Another one is responsibility and accountability and civic engagement. Well, both sides were trying to do that, but yeah, so I think that's important. And then deep listening and dialogue with openness, curiosity, and presence. Neither side was being open nor curious about what the other one was saying.
Thank you. Richard's not here, so Robert Whitehair.
My values changed from listening to that. Responsibility and accountability and civic engagement. I think, I can kind of let the kids go because they're young, but I can't let the other person go. And I had a similar experience 7 years ago. I met with Chuck Schumer, and he was more sophisticated, but he was doing the same thing. Urgency, I still believe that's really important, especially given the fact that, I'm just getting a little political. Dianne Feinstein should probably resign, and I won't get into we have an election here in California where the governor may get tossed. And if he does, before he leaves office, she should resign and he should appoint somebody else. And then finally, sustainability and regeneration. Using sustainability, I'm a member of an organization here called Sustainable San Mateo County. And I can see the regeneration as a stronger word. If they practice that responsibility and accountability, we would have a better chance.
Thank you, Robert.
I'm complete. You know, that's something when I've done the circle, that always so helps to say you're done. I'm complete.
Thank you, Robert. Rod Malloy.
I appreciate everybody's thoughts to this point. Mine changed a little bit. I would add innovation and creativity and open to inspiration, because I think the problem in those kind of interactions that people are rooted in the place and their mindset, and sometimes even deep listening doesn't help. So a little dose of creativity and innovation would be helpful. And the other one that rose into my urgency is still my number one, so that didn't change at all. And integrity would bump up to number two, because I think that's the thing that's lacking with those kind of interactions is integrity and truth and things that build trust. I'm complete.
Rod, just to make sure I understood it, so it's innovation, creativity is your third one, but integrity is your second and urgency is your first. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. Libby Troutman?
Actually, I didn't change mine, mostly because I thought, even though they didn't particularly work, I feel like the choices that I made are really important and they need to work for us to work together, like the deep listening and the dialogue. You can see what happens when we don't do deep listening. It doesn't work. So I guess I just held on to how do we learn how to use these skills that are so important, that enables us to hear each other and make them work. And then I didn't change reverence for all life because, I mean, that was the purpose of the whole meeting, is how do we communicate this reverence for life, the future for the kids? Somehow we have to figure out how to hold to that high principle, that big vision. And finally, what was missing that I had put down was justice, fairness, and equity. There wasn't equity in that exchange. And you can see what happens when there isn't equity. Nothing gets accomplished. So these are all things that I feel are critical for our system to work. So I just held on to them, and I'm complete.
Thank you so much, Libby. Lisa Colgan?
Yes, I didn't change my opinion. I think I might have changed the perspective a little bit, but basically I believe that in interactions like this and in all interactions with other people, whether they agree with us or not, the essential thing is to be in right relationship. I think all of these values that are here on our list are part of building that right relationship, and that from the get-go, this particular interaction showed what happens when there isn't a right relationship, with the children coming in very combative and Feinstein being very defensive and a bit remote and smug, although that's a value-laden thing. So whatever leads to right relationship and that reverence for each other, I think builds the sort of trust that allows for deep listening, that allows for wisdom to come out, for all of those. And I do believe absolutely in the central importance of truth and integrity, because without that, we come up with the universe of alternate facts, which is sort of where we're at right now. So I think the interaction just reemphasized for me what sorts of values must be present from the beginning to establish that right relationship and to incorporate truth and integrity in our interactions. I'm complete.
Lisa, I just had a clarifying question. So right relationship is your first value. Is truth and integrity your second?
Yes.
And what's your third?
My third is, I added one, mercy and forgiveness. Maybe that's part of compassion, but I think we need to give each other the space to be wrong and to forgive, to be merciful to one another in our interactions, realizing none of us is perfect.
Great. Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm going to go back to David. David, are you ready?
Yeah. In working with Sunrise, I would put urgency up as number one, even though it doesn't appear important to me because I've been working on climate change issues since 1984. So urgency doesn't make sense to me, but it certainly makes sense to these kids. And so I would put urgency as number one in working with Sunrise. Secondly, and I wouldn't work with Sunrise unless there was an agreement that we would be respectful of others. So respect is number two. I didn't think those kids cared about what the senator was saying, even though she's almost, I think she's 80 years old. She deserves respect. She has contributed a lot to the state of California over the years. And for that reason, if for no other, she deserves respect. And I didn't think Sunrise Group showed her much respect or any respect. And third, I'd put responsibility. It feels like the organizers of Sunrise were not responsible in having trained those kids about how to interact with an elder senator. I mean, they got access to the senator's office. They had an opportunity to sit down with her and learn, and they didn't capitalize on that opportunity because they weren't trained. Somebody screwed up there.
Okay. Are you complete, Dave?
I am complete.
Thank you. Let's move to Jan Singer. Can you unmute, Jan?
I didn't keep a good list of what I had put as my first three before, but I can tell you where I am now. So
that's all we need to know.
I know I added responsibility and accountability because I didn't have that one. I still feel, truth and integrity is really important. Deep listening, which wasn't shown in what we saw. That was one of the ones I had before. I want to keep that.
Okay, so I have responsibility, accountability is number one, truth, integrity is two, and deep listening is three. Is that correct?
Do they have to be in the order, or?
Well, I mean, it's your priority.
Those are the three I have. Those are the three I have.
That's all right, I'll just leave them there. Thank you. Let's move on to Linda Warner.
I didn't change too much. My first one was the right relationships. Integrity, authenticity was second. And I put compassion and deep listening together.
Okay.
But then I feel that I need to add responsibility and accountability and engagement.
Okay, thank you very much. Mary Beth?
I agree with what David said. I think I said it the last time, and I would put the word I would give that is compassion, and I think that meets that need. And by the way, the three I picked before are the same three that I'm picking now. And the second one is deep listening, for all the reasons. And then the third is integrity, authenticity, and truth.
Great, thank you. Meg?
I wanted to add so many. I still think my first one is reverence for all life, which includes right relationships. And probably deep listening and dialogue is up next. And integrity, truth, trust is what that leads to. And The ones I want to add are urgency and accountability.
Okay.
But I can't probably add those both. Anyway.
Are you complete?
I am, sorry.
Therese?
I would start with respect for each other / compassion. Respect for all life, thinking about the environment and all of us. Urgency and responsibility and accountability, if you give me a fourth.
Okay. Are you complete?
I am.
So I'm last. Have I missed anyone first? Okay. So I'm last. A sense of urgency is probably my first after seeing that. My second is honor the young. And my third is authenticity. And they did change. Sense of urgency and honor the young were not my first ones before. Authenticity was one of my three, as was integrity and truth. And they're still important to me, but for this purpose, I think it's important to emphasize values that would resonate and enable me to work better with this organization. Okay. So I just want to give you guys an opportunity to kind of go around and see if anybody who's spoken before has any changes that they want to make in their values, and then I'm going to turn it over to Therese to do a new word cloud, okay? And you're going to enter these into your word cloud. So David, do you have any changes? Any things to add? Can you unmute, David?
No, I stand where I was.
Okay, great. Mike Apkin?
I'm fine. I'm complete.
Okay. Robert Whitehair?
I am complete.
Rod Malloy?
I'm complete.
Libby Traubman?
Complete.
Lisa Colgan?
I'm complete.
Jan Singer? Can you unmute, please?
Yeah, I don't want to change anything.
Okay. Linda Warner?
I don't want to change anything. I would just add things.
Okay. Mary Beth?
I'm complete.
Meg?
Also complete.
Therese?
Complete.
And I am complete as well. All right. So I'm going to turn it over to Therese for the word cloud.
Okay. So I'm going to share screen and show you something that is a lot like what you saw before. I hope. Yes. I'm going to present with Slido. Almost here. And I'm going to ask you, do you see in the chat the link that I put in, which is the link that you need to link to be able to submit? Oh, what's happening here? I just looked at the chat. I'm sorry. There we go. In the chat, you should see the link to the place where you can enter your 1 or 2 word descriptions. And I think you now see 1 or 2 words would be great for up to 3 of your high priority values. I can see someone has already done it with thankfulness. And we'll just watch.
Is this the same link as before? Because I still have the other one.
It is the same link, yes.
And the same code to enter?
Yep.
All right. So again, 1 word description.
Yes, please, if you can.
Concerning this exercise or concerning the original question?
Concerning the exercise related to your high priority values for this purpose. And I will change the slide to say that when we do it in November or October. Seven of us have inputted, at least one, 8.
Is anyone having difficulty inputting their values and needs me to add them for you?
Are you okay, Libby? Okay, we have 10 people. Anyone still working on this? A little bit. Let's wait another moment. 11 people. Can you all see the number in the upper right-hand corner that tells us how many people have inputted answers?
Yeah.
Great.
That's what that is. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay. Angie, would you say we now have our word cloud?
We have it, and I'm going to share screen so you can see it.
Wait 1 second.
Okay.
Don't do that quite yet. Okay. Now I'm going to stop sharing. And over to you.
Okay. Can you all see that?
I'm somehow out of the presentation. I'm going to have to I've lost Zoom. There we go.
Okay.
We can hear you. If you go down to the little icon with the camera on the bottom of your screen, you should be able to get back to the right place.
Thank you.
So this is, can you see the word cloud? Can everyone see it? Okay.
Yeah.
So the ones that are, leaping out are authenticity and deep listening, and then responsibility, respect is next, then responsibility, urgency, and listening. So just to compare that with the other word cloud, here was the other word cloud, right? The first word cloud. And this is our second. So you can see there has been change. I wish I could put them side by side. I cannot do that. Although I might be able to.
Well, I think it would mean a lot more if you could combine the words that are the same and just said like urgency and sensitive urgency are the same.
Yeah,
deep listening and listening are the same. I know you can't, but it would
right.
it would be more meaningful if you could.
It would, yeah. So you can just do that in your heads, and that means that urgency is probably going to pop up as like respect. Okay? And I'm going to try to see if I can I copy that? Yeah, I can. Okay.
Congratulations on your tech for those of you who are doing this.
Okay.
Well done.
So the one on the left was the first word cloud. The one on the right is the second word cloud. Move it over a little bit so you can compare them. And now I'm going to turn it over to Meg, who's going to lead us in a discussion around 3 questions, which I will put in the chat. Over to you, Meg. Meg, can you unmute, please? We can't hear you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Angie and Therese. I'm very pleased Okay, I'm just trying to get rid of the chat out of here. Okay, so here you saw the questions and they're in the chat, but I want to change it around a little bit this time, because what we didn't get to in the last one that we did was something that we think is going to be very important for our presentation, and that is how could we apply this experience of values distillation and of changing our values in response to a particular purpose and organization. So it's going to include some of the responses that you've already given, but let's start with the focus on how can you apply this experience to your everyday life, but also to your work in our organizations. And with, I mean, there are all sorts of possibilities, your own relatives and friends, or just any of the work that we're doing as organizations. So who wants to start? Oh, I do want to say one thing. Sorry, Mike. Let's try using the reactions button at the bottom and raising your hand. If you click it, it'll raise your hand, and then all you have to do is remember to click it again to lower your hand. If that's not working for you, just raise your hand. Okay, Mike, I'm going to, and then Libby.
Okay, what I would suggest is that we don't talk about how your values change. You know, people don't like to think their values change. I would say for this purpose, the first time around, you say, okay, what are your most priority values, your most important values? This time you say, okay, now what you think are most important for this purpose. So you're not changing your values, you're just bringing others to the fore for this purpose.
Absolutely, which is why it's so important to know what our purpose and who we are working with in order to find the common values that are going to work. Yeah. Libby.
I think having the example was very helpful to get us in touch with our values in a different way. And I could see at a workshop, maybe presenting 2 or 3 different stories, like one in a sporting event with kids, or because it helps us see where our values stay the same, or as Mike said, how we draw in something a little different depending on the situation. Because I know watching that video really stirred me up, just thinking about especially the role that the elder played. I expect more from her. And yes, and to me, this exercise is really important because it helps us figure out how we live life each day and what values we pull from in our everyday relationships about listening or not listening and hearing the other or not caring about the other. I mean, all these things go on consciously and unconsciously every day, so it's really helpful.
Can you think of anything, Libby? This is so important. Can you think of any specifics in your life where you could see trying to apply this, be more aware of this?
Absolutely. I mean, there are a lot of people who don't see the world that I see. And I talk to a lot of people every day who hardly believe there's a climate crisis. Or, there are a lot of things going on. So that's why I always put down listening as my top, because if I can't listen and take in and consider their worldview and how they reached the decision they reached, nothing can change. So I think every day is an opportunity for me.
Yeah, thank you. Lisa, and then David.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything that Libby was saying. And it also made me think, in watching the interaction that they had, was that, and in day to day, everything around us, it seems like we're all geared to react. There's this enormous reactivity that goes on. And when we're reacting, we're not listening. It's like what you said at the beginning of this whole exercise. It's like, focus on this, don't judge, and don't react. So it's very hard not to do, but I think both the young people and the elder were too busy reacting to each other to really be listening. So it's a discipline that I think, for myself, I certainly need to develop.
Thank you. I'm sure we could all say that. At least I could. David.
Yeah, the one thing that occurred to me as a result of this exercise is that I don't know that I've ever asked a person that I know has views different from my own. I don't know that I've ever asked them to think about their values and let me know what their highest priority values were vis-a-vis the conversation that we are engaging in.
Yeah.
It'd be helpful to know that to begin with, to get that out there on the table.
I think it's one of those national programs starts with that. I don't know if you remember which one it is, but it is all about getting down to the basic values. And
Probably
I think
Braver Angels. My guess is Braver Angels.
And I know that happens in Libby's work as well, with starting with the Palestinians and Jews, Israelis, Jews. Well, and can you think of anything specific, David, where you could start?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay, I invite you to think about it.
Okay, thank you.
I saw somebody, Angie, thank you.
I have to unmute first. So, and I said this at the last session, but some of you weren't there. When I watched that sunrise video, and I've seen it several times now, I saw myself in Dianne Feinstein so vividly. I am she, and I specifically have this very vivid memory of a few years ago, let's say 2016, during the primary, before Joe Biden was nominated and before it was clear he was going to be the nominee. Having a conversation with my granddaughters, because I try to bring them into, engage them in politics as much as I can. And I just said to them, I said, well, so who are you guys supporting? Who are you for? And the older girl, 14-year-old, said, well, she was 12 then, she said, oh, I'm for Bernie. And I just looked at her and laughed at her. And I said, oh, Emily, I said, Bernie Sanders is never going to win. If he becomes the nominee, Trump is going to continue to be our president. He's got positions that are way too left for where the country is right now. And I gave a litany of all the reasons why. And my intent was good. It was to help educate. But when I saw that video, I said to myself, what I did was abominable. Just abominable as an elder. I did not treat her as a young woman, growing young woman. I did not treat her with respect. I didn't use inquiry. I used advocacy, and that was very, and she just sort of got very quiet and just disappeared into the woodwork. And she did not say a word. And that has haunted me since then. I've never apologized to her for it because it didn't hit me how bad it was until I saw that video. But I will. She's coming back from camp on Friday, and I hope to see her maybe over the weekend. And I want to have a really good heart-to-heart talk with her about this. Thank you.
So glad you told that story again, Angie. It's powerful every time I hear it. It's wonderful. And I'm glad you're going to see her. Mary Beth.
Thank you. I was so delighted to hear again what you said, David, about asking the other about their values. Many of you are part of our CVC team and will be participating with Jan and me at our upcoming August 31st, Being with Difficult Conversations. And yesterday you should have received an email with some of those details. And Lisa, I appreciated your reply to that and appreciation. So thank you. And I think it has a beautiful segue actually from our conversation today in how we view our values. And in this particular model that Jan and I will be working with you on the 31st, it's looking at them through the lens of our possible losses and understanding our own losses, then vis-a-vis that, understanding our values. And then when we understand the losses of the other, we understand their values. So I just so appreciate having the opportunity to work with you three today to have this initial conversation, and really love the connection for next week. So thank you.
I want to thank you both, Mary Beth and Jan, for putting this together. I think it's going to be very profound. I'm really looking forward to it. I think we all are. Yeah. Robert. Oh, unmute, please.
Doesn't seem to work in my hands. I was thinking about the reaction I had. That's the first time I saw that video, and I was appalled. And it's funny, when I appear a lot before city councils here locally, and when I do, I'm really trained to thank them for what they're doing and thank them for their actions. But when I saw that video, I did not thank Dianne Feinstein. And I think it's important when you see these things to realize sometimes politics in DC is a sport, and not to fall into that trap. And that's that I'm talking about myself, is that not to fall into that trap, that it's the sport, it's the reaction. And that's what they're all good at doing. And I think the thing that would help if we could go immediately to big picture. And again, that's what I try to do when I speak, when I prepare my remarks. But in this reaction where it's instantaneous, it would be much better for me to have respect for Dianne Feinstein. And you remember I went immediately into let's get her out of office. And probably a good thing to do, but that's not respectful of her. I'm complete.
I think one of the hardest things for me is I have these values, but it's very hard for me to get rid of the tendency to come to an immediate judgment instead of remaining open and curious and really deeply listening. And so that is something I need to work on. I have a sister who's adamantly opposed to being vaccinated, even though she's one of the most vulnerable people out there. And I and I have the mother of my goddaughter, the mother of my goddaughter, who was a good friend, is an old friend, was a Trump supporter. And I tried to have a conversation with her couple years ago, and I ended up not being able to stay with it without a visceral reaction. So I have a lot of things to learn about bridging divides and about bringing people together. But that to me is one of the fundamental things that we're about in this group, and that I feel called to do. The other part of it, and Jan, 1 second. The other part of it for me that's so important that we haven't really talked about very much, but I use that initial value of deep reverence for all life and right relationships, which we have put together, even though they could be separated too. To me, that's sort of a meta value that works for almost anything. And particularly with climate change, which Sunrise is all about. If we had the respect, if we understood that we are interdependent with all life and each other, I mean, I think that would solve so many things. It would get us so far in whatever work we do. So that's something, that's the inner work that I think is so important. And I'm devoted to, but not always successfully. I saw Jan's hand and Teresa's. So
I need to leave now. I'm really sorry to miss
Oh,
this.
Mike, thank you so
Yeah.
much. I'm so glad you could be here.
Yeah, me too.
Do you
Me
wait
too.
before you leave? Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I'm complete. I think it's a great process. I think when you say the purpose of working, Staging wants to work with Sunrise, I think we need to be more specific. The values, if they're going to be doing it to training Sunrise and how to talk to legislators, or are they going to be campaigning with them to go together to see people, or are they going to, it depends, be different. That's all. Okay, thanks all.
Thank you so much for coming. Okay, so Jan and then Therese.
I was just gonna say some things that you said, Meg, also, and that's the, this conversation is so good for moving to the conversation we're gonna have next week, because the sort of deep listening and being able to hear the other person and respect the other person is very critical and very difficult. Not if you're talking about something that's not a big deal and you just sort of have a little disagreement, but when you're talking about this future of our democracy, you feel like, that's hard to do. Or when you're talking about COVID perhaps and not getting vaccinated and what that's doing to other people. So with these very strong emotional issues, being able to have some of this training about thinking about how to listen to the other person and respect them for what they're saying from where they're at, for me, it's going to be really critical. I don't do that very well right now.
Thank you. Yeah. And Therese?
Yes, thank you. I am very much looking forward to our discussion next week. And because I think it is going to address some of the critical things to having effective interchange and agreement. I will say, as I think back on the times that I have been able to overcome my own biases and blocks in dealing with very difficult people, the only practical thing that has helped me is compassion. And to really, folks have told me, go out and figure out a way to have compassion. It is not a 2-minute exercise for me. So I think I'm looking forward very much to seeing what we do. I do think it's inner work, and it takes a lot of work to have compassion for people we know differ from us dramatically. And I'm only willing to do it for a few people.
But that's probably the place where you get the biggest value from doing it. Yeah. I would like to invite any of the ones who haven't had a chance to speak yet to speak.
I would just say I had an opportunity last week, and I think as a result of doing this before, spending a lot of time with a friend who haven't spent much time with recently. And we usually avoid anything close to politics, but got into it. And I had an immediate reaction and became very defensive for a few minutes. And then I started thinking, and we questioning and talking about really values. And that's where I realized we don't quite have the same values, but I really as hard as it was, decided that I was really going to listen, ask a lot of questions to try to come to an understanding. And I saw it in it. It was very helpful to, I think, to me, and it really gave her an opportunity to talk about what she was feeling, and a long way to go, but I saw how important it was and productive.
It's a great example. Rod, I saw you almost ready to speak last time. Are you?
Yeah, I'm ready. I have enjoyed listening to everybody's stories. They have impacted me significantly. So this exercise has been very valuable for me. I tend to dedicate my energy to channeling my sort of anger and frustration with politics into filmmaking. And that has been something that started this year, 2021. So these kinds of activities in personal and private conversations, I tend to listen, and I'm becoming more of a listener as the time goes by. Because I think even though it was not one of my top 3 values for this exercise in this group, that's sort of how I'm wired, or who I've become as a person.
I think what you and what everybody's basically seen, Lisa, just a minute, is the really profound impact on the other of feeling heard, of feeling valued and listened to and heard. And we feel the same thing when we feel, it's mutual. So I think that's one of the things that's come out of this conversation. Lisa.
That's a perfect segue to what I was just going to mention, which is when I was involved in mediation and mediation training, one of the techniques that we were taught was to reflect back what the other person had just said, because so many times we think we hear what they haven't said. And so just the process of saying, you don't have to say, I hear you say, because that sounds really kind of, weird. But to just say, okay, if I'm understanding you correctly, you have said this, because about 50% of the time, I find that I haven't heard them at all. And they go, no, that's not what I said. And so the real basis for communication is to make sure that each of us is hearing what the other person is really saying.
and actually not being defensive about it. Yeah. David, and then I think we have to move to the end.
Yeah, I just want to relate a thought, and forgive me if somehow this came through to this group already, but I had an occasion when we were in the Tetons for the husband of my wife's niece. And we've been with him before, and he knows us, he likes us. But his politics is quite opposite, in part because I'm a pacifist and have been since the Vietnam War, and he worked as a contractor for Boeing, as a defense contractor. So he's oriented towards the military, and I'm oriented towards the diplomacy. So he knows that we come from different places, but he was willing spontaneously to raise that issue after dinner, and he said, I'd like to have a conversation. I know we're on opposite poles, but let's talk about it. And I'd like you to know where I come from. So it was in that he explained how he grew up as the child of an immigrant from the Philippines, and that his dad had worked with the Americans in World War II, and how that came down to him, and how he got involved and made a lot of money working in the defense industry. And I applauded him for his courage to actually broach that issue, because I sensed that it meant he trusted me, not to have it blow up into a big angry conflict. So if you ever find yourself in a situation, either where you're face to face, or even an exchange of letters, or emails, or tweets, or whatever, or text threads or something, if you find a person who doesn't share your values, willing to raise it with you, that's a sign of their respect for you. And one of the things that you can do is appreciate that, their bravery, their willingness. So,
yeah. Thank you, David. Thank you, everyone. This has been a very rich discussion. I think I would encourage us all to think about how else we can bring what we've learned today into our daily lives. Because I think that's the point of this, our daily lives and our work. And we've gotten a lot of ideas, and I just want to thank you. I also want to again thank Angie and Therese for all their work and skill. And we will be sending you a brief survey at the end for reactions and suggestions, so we can have it for us for when we do the quote real event. And I invite you again here. Angie, do you want to speak to this? I know it's coming. You need to unmute, Angie.
Okay. We did want to give you some opportunities between the Elders Action Network and Saging International if you're interested in circles, other circle opportunities. I will put these in the chat so you can save the chat if you want to keep these links. But there are opportunities to do that. And then lastly, there is going to be a post-workshop survey, and Crystal will send that to you via email. So please complete it today, because we really do look at that and we will use it to improve the presentation for the workshop in October. And I'll put the circle opportunities in the chat for you.
You had mentioned to hold this Friday, just in case. Is that still something that we should be holding? And you mentioned next Tuesday that I don't know anything about, and I don't know whether I'm supposed to.
Well, Jan or Mary Beth, I think this Friday is off we no longer need that. Thank you. And as far as I'm concerned, anybody here is welcome to come, but I think I should defer to Jan and Mary Beth.
The only thing I wonder about is our groups, and that's a question we have to figure out anyway. I was going to ask Mary Beth about, we want to have these dyads and if we're going to be able to have them and how many we can have, because it's fine for more people to come if we can have more dyads. I just don't know. Mary Beth, you know about that, or Crystal?
I know you can add dyads up to beyond any number we will be likely to have next Tuesday.
Oh, okay. Great.
Yeah, it's just, there is no limit. It's however half the amount of people that you have.
And Crystal, thank you so much for being there. Crystal's going to facilitate the dyad so that Jan and I can both participate. So we're very grateful. Thank you.
Well, I forgot because you were blank, Crystal, but I meant to thank you for being here today and being our super tech guru.
I didn't have to do anything.
Yes, you did. You are here. And Libby, do you and anybody else who doesn't know, did you get enough of a sense of what we're doing? It's a project that we have going in the Civic Values Group for difficult conversations, and I think if you're interested, just put your name in the chat and we'll send you the material.
Yeah.
If we were expected, I didn't know that was I just wasn't sure if this is a different project.
It's different. It's
Okay.
different. So you're not expected, but you're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
And that goes for Lise and Robert and Rod. Yeah.
You're going to send that to all of us?
We'll be glad to send that out in case you are.
I mean, Linda, you said you were going to be able to send out what we sent to you. So could
Yes.
you do a few more
Yes.
people?
Yes, I will. I think I can get your email, Robert.
I can give it to you.
Okay. Okay. Oh, I think I have it probably. But I'll
Okay.
send it.
Right now, I don't know enough about what it's all about. So.
Well,
Okay.
you'll know when you get the email.
Yeah, there's a good explanation.
Okay, cool.
Linda, perhaps, let me just jump in here. Perhaps the people like Robert and Libby who've not been in the ongoing conversation, if you wouldn't mind sharing our notes as well, that before our last meeting that Jan and I sent to you, because that
Okay.
just puts it into historical context.
Okay.
What we're doing moving forward. Thank you so much. I
That
appreciate
that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, that'll give you a little history as to where we've been, how we got to this place, and where we're going. And the more the merrier.
Yeah, that's the way I feel.
And I think I got it. So if I did, you can ignore this request, but if I didn't, please include me in the
Mailing. Yeah. So is Linda, is there anything you want to say about our next meeting, which is in 2 weeks? Probably not.
No.
Let's just say we're lucky to be 2 weeks ahead. Okay, but 2 weeks from now, we'll have another CVC meeting. And again, is there anything that anybody wants to say before we just say goodbye and thank you again?
Thank you. This is really, really interesting and seems very important.
Thanks, Libby. You contribute so much. Thank you.
Well, thank you, because this is something, those experiences with Dianne Feinstein's office and others are things we experience all the time for those of us who are active, like we all are.
Right.
It's very, very helpful.
All right, everybody. Be well. We'll see many of you next week.
Great. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.